What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait, What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 185. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011. You can drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live, join on the conversation and the fun over there. But if you can't, that's A-OK, and go over to YouTube and podcast services. The very next week, we're just broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 for your amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, any way you could support the show, like subs, follows, all that fun stuff, reviews. It may seem small, but it has helped the channel grow, so if you could take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. Today, for our topics, we're talking a lot of wrestling again. We're going to be talking about WWE Payback, which happened last night as of recording, and we're going to be talking about the most recent draft and the kind of call-ups from NXT. Who's doing well, who's not doing anything, just kind of talk about that. So let's jump into topic one. Let's talk about Payback last night. I'm not going to do like I did last week with AEW and run through all the matches, specifically what happened and all that jazz. Just wanted to go over the results, my thoughts on the show overall, directions for the superstars next, what are they going to do, and so on and so forth. So there were... how many matches? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 4 a segment, 5, 6 matches, and a talking segment for Payback. And overall, I will say this show, pretty good. Kind of surprising. A lot of people are like, I know I certainly was getting that energy of like, maybe this is a skippable one, or like nothing really felt super duper exciting to watch, but I think this show delivered and surpassed expectations, which is great. You want that. Maybe not the feelings going into it, but you want that the show to obviously do well and things to be exciting and whatnot. So our matches include Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus in the steel cage match. We had LA Knight with The Miz. We had Austin Theory going against Rey Mysterio for the U.S. Championship. We had Finn Balor and Damian Priest going against Owens and Zayn for the Undisputed Tag. We had Grayson Waller with Cody Rhodes as a guest. We had Rhea defending her World Championship against Raquel. And then our main event was Seth defending his World Championship against Shinsuke. So overall on the night, like I said, good stuff. We had some interesting turns of events from some stuff. Becky and Trish with their steel cage did a really good job. This rivalry's been kind of hit or miss at times. And kind of felt for a lot of people, I think, like it's gone on too long without a payoff. But we finally get the payoff here. Becky picks up the win, and then we get some interesting stuff afterwards where we continue to build Zoe and her character. Kind of alluding to our next topic, but her call-up has been successful. We talked about it initially when the story kind of broke, putting her with these established superstars that people know on the main roster. If people haven't watched NXT and watched Zoe stuff, putting her here at least makes her be like, hey, I'm important, pay attention to me. And with the conclusion of the steel cage match with Zoe and Trish getting into an altercation, it seems like this is going to continue, and probably this will be the next program for both of them. So happy to see Zoe still in this. Hopefully Trish can help elevate her. Obviously, once again, name value, yes, but hopefully in-ring value as well. We could see that continue and be fruitful for both of them. But Zoe in particular, just because obviously still newer to the main roster. So cool there that we get a conclusion and then we get the follow-up afterwards. That's great. And speaking of, the next match did the same thing with LA Knight going over The Miz. This one was probably the low point, which sounds weird, just because it felt like it went really long for some reason. But Knight picks up the win here, which is great. Everybody pretty much kind of figured that was what was needed to happen. I could have seen it going obviously either way in terms of results. It just would have been a matter of like, Knight needs to win this overall to have any kind of momentum or faith by the company, I guess. The Miz could have picked up a win here, and I don't think it would have been the end of the world. You just had to make sure like sneaky methods were kind of taken, whether it was cheating and grabbing the rope, which they did allude to in this match, or something along those lines where it would have been like, well, he didn't lose cleanly, so we shouldn't give up on LA Knight yet, and then he could continued it, but we just kept it one and done here. So LA Knight picks up the win. We had a special guest referee, Cena, in there. Not bad. Counts real slow, but that went fine. And then the interesting thing is we got a little bit of respect shown from Cena. We got a little bit of the handshake and the hand raise. But at least the picture that's here, Cena looks pissed at LA Knight. I don't know if this was just like, if this was legit and he was mad at LA Knight's character. I hope it wasn't that. But we're getting some teases of those two potentially working together, question mark. I don't know. Cena's been adding a lot more dates onto his schedule. I don't know if that's because of the SAG-AFTRA stuff. That he's just like, hey, I'm free. If he does come back and decides to work with Knight, hopefully it's good. The Theory stuff at Mania wasn't awful, but it's not really his fault. It's a follow-up afterwards. Hasn't really been done for Theory, and Theory's kind of fallen to the wayside. But hopefully that match can be good for both of them, and that's another situation like we talked about literally with Zoe. Put LA Knight with people who are very well known, established, and hopefully it kind of bleeds over to them being like, oh, I should pay attention to so-and-so. But he's getting insane pops. Philadelphia, I believe they're in. No, Pittsburgh. Sorry. Pittsburgh. Sorry. They were going crazy for LA Knight, which was great to hear that reception. So people are behind him. It's just a matter of keeping that momentum going in terms of booking and all that stuff. So I talked about that being a low point just because of the match length. I think the U.S. title match was also a low point. Nothing bad, just like story build or tension. It just wasn't anything to knock your socks off of. Theory owned for most of the match at the beginning, and then Ray got the upper hand, and then Ray retained. I thought potentially we're going to do the LWO turn here, or the Santos turn. I did a little celebration at the end where Ray went on Santos' shoulders, and they were all like applauding him and stuff like that. Thought maybe they'd do like an electric chair spot, but did not. So that just, nothing came out of that. Didn't feel super great. I believe after this, we got a little backstage segment to show what Becky's doing next, or at least a little tease of a short program. If you're watching NXT, Tiffany Stratton is the women's champion down there. She's looking for a new challenger. 2 weeks ago, I believe, she was saying how she's better than a plethora of NXT women's champions in the past. Charlotte, Bayley, Asuka, and name drop Becky. And then I don't know if they did it on purpose, but they've cleverly made it where Becky's never been NXT women's champion. The internet popped off on Tiffany being like, that's not what the case is. And then, they're making a story out of that. So apparently Becky at some point is alluding to going down there and challenging Tiffany. What that result is, I don't know at that point. But it seems like we have a little heat going there and some kind of story. So, hey, good stuff. Then we probably got my favorite match of the night. Surprisingly, we had the street fight for the Undisputed Tag titles. So Judgment Day going against Owens and Zayn. And this one was a lot of fun. Tornado tag, no DQ type stuff. So you got a lot of weaponry and just chaos going on around the ring. It was gimmicky too, where there was some silly stuff, but I think overall it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. At some point, Owens got a decent gash on top of his head and kind of was bleeding a lot. They took care of that and cleaned him up at some point, but didn't seem like everyone who was part of the match did a very good job in terms of improvising if they needed to, where it flowed very well and seamlessly, where it didn't seem like one of those things where you have to lull or kind of hang out. Granted, it's a tag match, so you have the freedom of more people to do that compared to a one-on-one, a la Mania with Finn and Edge. But it went well, and the four of them did a great job with their spots. A little bit of a scary swanton from Owens onto Dominic. as Dominic did intervene. Hit the table fine, it broke fine, just kind of was really far forward, so that looked like a icky landing. But as I mentioned, Judgment Day, other members of the Judgment Day did get involved. So we did get Dominic involved. We did get re-involved as she speared Owens through the barricade. And we also did have potential newbie JD McDonough getting involved, making the save at one point and eating a nasty table bump on the announce table with the monitor still there. But Judgment Day would get the upper hand here, so now they're holding all the gold except for the world title. And it's a good way to continue this story. I was down for Owens and Zayn like being tag champs, nothing wrong with that. Was hoping, and I think rumors say they were hoping too, like they could kind of spark up the tag division a little bit more again, and it seems like they were doing that at the beginning, but it kind of fell off. So nothing against them being champions. I do like the Judgment Day being champions, just because I like the group, but also adds that extra layer of the story they were telling there with potential dissension in the group, and are we fine, are we not fine? Seems like we're on the same page now. It's a good imagery of like all of them hold some titles. Obviously, if Damian does cash in this Money in the Bank at some point, will that cause more drama or whatever? Who knows? We'll have to see. So new champs there. Then we got the Grayson Waller effect with Cody Rhodes. Why? We figured this would be setting up Cody's next program. Turns out not the case. He's going to announce a new signee to Monday Night Raw because he's the GM now. No, he's not the GM, but for reasons. He announced a new superstar coming to Monday Night Raw. It is main event Jey Uso. Got a huge pop. Got a huge reaction. His new music, pretty much the same. That audio might need, the new lyrics might need a little bit more of a blend into the old song. But yeah, people love him, which is great. You didn't want it to be this flash in the pan, like leading up to Roman, obviously gets beat by Roman and then comes out of it and is like nothing. People were enthused. So hopefully that continues for Jey. I have no idea what they're going to do. That's the big head scratcher of all this, of like, why? Okay, one, why bring him back so soon? He was gone, I think, 3 weeks tops. So you could have held out the Rumble, do a return there. You get Jimmy J face off. You could still do that now with the opposite brands thing. But you could have kept that for the Rumble. Granted, that is 4 months away, so I get it. That's a long time. But I just don't know what Jey is going to do. Who is he going to go against? What program is he going to work? No idea. Obviously, time will tell, or rather, Monday will probably tell. But the main thing here, glad that he's still got this major reaction, and hopefully he can continue that momentum going forward. The other weird part is, why did Cody announce this? He said, like, oh, this feels, hopefully I'm making the right decision or something like that, of bringing Uso in. Obviously, the bloodline stuff. He's got drama there. I thought maybe he was also going to announce that he's going to SmackDown, because he's like, oh, do you watch SmackDown? And this, that, and the other thing. So I was like, it can't be a trade, because Jey quit, so SmackDown doesn't, quote-unquote, own him or have him anymore, so it couldn't be a trade of Jey to Cody. Like, how does this get... Ultimately, we still think Cody Roman for Mania 40, right? How... We got to connect those dots, and I really hope it is not a Royal Rumble win. No offense. That's just so boring and, like, automatic. Like, if he even says, I'm part of the Rumble, it's like, well, fuck, now we know that result. And I don't know, I just want some surprise in there, or, like, you don't want anything to be guaranteed results-wise. Not guaranteed, but like super predictable results-wise. So that one would feel just like a shoe-in for me if he was like, I'm in the Rumble. And then that's how he gets over there. I don't know how they do it otherwise, though, because didn't participate in Money in the Bank, didn't win that. So you have to get some kind of trade situation going on if they're going to stick to this draft thing. I know with the LA Knight Miz story, they haven't. Undisputed Tag's a little different just because they're tag of everything. So we'll see. We'll see how he gets over there. But just, main event Jay. And then we got the Women's World Championship match. Ladies did great. It was a great job here. I think they definitely made Raquel look credible and strong, which was the objective here. I don't think a lot of people thought Raquel was going to win, but I think she made a strong case for herself and just the match overall. Things went clean for the most part. A few slip-ups here and there just in terms of momentum of picking stuff up or picking each other up. But once again, they recovered, they did well, and I think the objective was achieved here. Also, they still kept Raquel strong by making an interference angle by Dom affect the match outcome. So it's not a clean finish. It was she's distracted by Dom, does the power slam on him, and then I believe gets hit with the riptide afterwards. So you could still make that argument for Raquel and being like, yeah, she held her own. It could have gone either way, but then something happened outside. So I think that's good. And I think we need to do that with more of the women's division. Not obviously the exact point-to-point thing, but just building everybody up. Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell were recently on TV with Rhea. I think Indy got some time, but Candice kind of got squashed. Not great there. Build people up. You can still have Rhea be dominant without squashing people in 30 seconds. And if you need to squash people in 30 seconds, bring up an NXT person or bring up a local talent. Like, you can still do that. We've seen it on the men's side of things. But with the ladies, if you're going to do a match with roster, just give them a few minutes at least. Like, give them some offense. You can still have Rhea be strong. She is the champ, so you give her the credit, or she has the credibility of like putting people away, but it doesn't have to be that quick, because at some point it's going to bite you in the butt, where it's like, who cares that Rhea's beating XYZ in all this minimal amount of time. Now granted, that could just be me talking. Like, the jobber situation, the enhancement talent situation has been a thing for ages and ages in wrestling, and I don't know, it hasn't really broken too much credibility for people at some points. I know Braun initially, like, he was just doing a lot of multi-man enhancement squashes, but eventually Braun Strowman got around, so like, I don't know. Last one, we got our main event, which was Rollins versus Nakamura. Seth did end up winning this one and retaining, which probably was my biggest question mark of the night. Now, my only reason it was a question mark is because, like, I don't know. We've talked about this, I feel, with the World Heavyweight Championship before. If it's supposed to be this workman's title, I feel it should change hands often or more often. If you're defending it more potential for that. We've had a super long reign with Roman. Let's get some excitement in there and switch it up. Would have been happy with Finn winning it. If Damian obviously cashes in, that would be cool. I thought Shinsuke here was going to win it, or he had a very strong chance of winning it, because of this giant character overhaul. And it looks cool. Like, obviously, he's dressing the same. Most of his moveset's the same. His music's the same. But his promos are very different. Before he came out in this match, he had some, like, literal anime-esque, like, animations, cartoon comic panels, like, depicting this story. He seems like an anime boss, and it's really cool and threatening. But with this first loss, it's that fear of like, okay, you put all this investment in him, you're reworking him, whatever it is, then he loses. Like, why should I care? Like, I feel like he had a target of the back, which, oh my god, they mentioned so many times in this match. Let him win this one, and then people can go, oh crap, Shinsuke's a threat again. The only way I could see this loss being a positive, granted I'm probably going to eat my words after this and be like, oh yeah, he's still great. Like, I still like Shinsuke, but like, what they did was great. So maybe not only way, but a way I could see this working. If you've watched anime, you could do the anime trope, or villain trope of like they get defeated and then they come back like even more psychotic. I think we talked about this with Roman, with like the bloodline kind of breaking apart. Like he's kind of losing it a little bit, but like you have them snap where they're just super aggressive, super ruthless, super just like not overcompensating, but they're really more twisted than, what's the word? Like not following, it's like following a plan. I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue and it's frustrating. But like, just have Shinsuke go over the top with everything and like maniacal with it, compared to a slow, methodical type of villain where they think where he thinks he has everything under control. Then that plan fails, and he has those doubts in himself, which causes him to go to these extremes. I think with the current anime type character and going into like the darker side, and obviously using his strengths to his advantages of like speaking his native language, and to us Americans, like that's foreign and not the old 80s thing of like, oh, foreigners, blah blah blah. No, don't do that. But like it has that mysterious value to it because we don't speak the language, so it seems more ominous and stuff like that while we're reading. At least in my opinion it did. So keep that up, and then just keep progressing that character forward to elevate him to another level. Because if he's just going to be like the same as he was, I don't know if it keeps his momentum going and if people still would care after that. There has to be some kind of growth to his character. He could go back to the methodical, slow, like threatening, looming villain after a big win, because he like accomplishes that goal, gets the checkbox, the check mark, and then goes back to this like more mysterious villain. But he has to accomplish something. There needs to be ebbs and flows in the character and growth, instead of just like, I lost, don't acknowledge it, don't do anything, don't change, then it just falls flat. So that's the big thing there. But like I said, overall the show went really well. Matches went great. Just questions of like, what are we doing going forward? Other ones obviously have answered or have been alluded to with Zoe Trish, Becky and Tiffany, LA Knight and Cena. So we'll have to see where that goes going forward. But good job by everybody. I think the next pay-per-view is Fastlane, so that, at least in terms of name value, is a similar one to this of like low expectations, but they got obviously a month, so hopefully they can figure stuff out, get some stories going, and make that an interesting one. But we shall see.